Welcome back to Sports Federation TV, where we talk about sport, we talk about our sport display, we talk about passion. Someone that's very passionate about motorbike and motor car racing is the legendary Mr. Lance Isaacs. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Nice. Thanks for having me here.
I'm honored to be with the man, because that's what you are. Everybody talks, you talk motorbike, all they talk about is Lance. Tell us, who is Lance, firstly?
Well, a small little boy, not such a little boy anymore. Tender age of 36 years old. My career basically started off at a very young age. Well, not career. My dad coming home with a motorbike when I was 3 years old. Could actually ride a motorbike before I learned to ride a BMX bicycle. So I think it was written in the stars, and my dad had a very clear plan as to what he wanted me to do, or
Steered you in that
where
path.
he perceived me to be
Yeah.
in future. But yeah, it's been a very long road. It's been a family passion. My dad and his brothers, my grandfather, great grandfather, they've always had I would say high octane running through their veins, and you know, naturally I was steered in that path, and it's a path that I've continued throughout my life. Fortunate enough to make my sport my career, which is great. And you know, I started off with my motorbike at 3 years old. From there, you know, it was pretty much grassroots levels of two-wheeled sport. For me, going to race BMX. I was born and raised in the KwaZulu-Natal, Pietermaritzburg, predominantly, racing in the BMX championships around the country. Was a South African BMX champion at the age of 10 years old.
Okay, so you raced at the Golden Circle and all of those places?
All over. We used to travel to Cape Town. Raced. I think it used to be the old,
Kraaifontein.
back in the day. It used to be called the Western Flyer BMX circuit. I think it was sponsored by Western
Correct,
Flyer. I think it was
correct.
in Goodwood. I think it was.
There's one in Goodwin, there's one in Kraaifontein, and one on the West Coast.
Yes, yes. Well, we predominantly, well, for our national events, we predominantly raced at Goodwood. I think it was. Yeah, and it was been great. I've traveled from a very young age. So you know, it's been a natural progression for me from BMX days. Ended up going over to race motocross, and yeah, racing motocross back in those days was really fun, really rewarding. It was absolutely massive back in the day. It's not. I don't want to. It's evolved quite a lot to date, and between my dad and I, we were at a crossroads. We didn't know which. We were trying to decide in which route to follow, and I was always really keen on road racing, and Kevin Schwantz was one of my heroes. So we thought, you know, we'd try something different, and yeah, from then road racing has just kicked off pretty much.
So at what age did you migrate from motocross onto track?
Yeah, the motocross thing kind of stopped for me at age 14, and we took a little bit of a break from racing. We had some family issues with the passing of my mom, and you know, we just took a break from a few things, and when we got fired back up again, we just decided, you know what, road racing is the natural progression. 16 years old, decided, you know, that was it. Road racing was it, and the bug bit ever since.
And I mean, what was it like going from BMX motocross into road riding, and the handling aspect? Because but what you're saying is that that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Is if you didn't do the BMX, you wouldn't be confident enough to progress.
Yeah. Well, you know, like you say, you know, when you're starting at those grassroots levels, you know, riding BMX, there's certain skills you learn on a BMX that will translate over into riding a motocross bike. Little technical skills, maneuvering, etc., etc. And naturally, riding an off-road bike, when you learning to slide and to learning to look for traction on an off-road circuit, translates over into when you're riding a road bike, because, you know, with tire degradation, when the tires start going off, start sliding around pretty much just like the motocross bikes start sliding around, which is, I still do off-road riding as training to date. So, the one end always washes the other.
But we'll come back to that. Just on that, a quick question. People only use a tire once on a track. Is that the true story?
Yes.
Why? Because a tire tread?
Well, if you think about the pace that we actually riding at, from when the tire is new, we're pushing everything to the maximum. The suspension has been pushed to the maximum. The bike's performance has been pushed to the maximum. So the acceleration from the motorcycle, the rear wheel, the grip that you have in the beginning of a race is never the same as the grip that you have at the end of the race. And that's what our practice sessions are all about. We're trying to find the perfect balance on the motorcycle from start to finish. Sometimes the conditions change. Some circuits are more abrasive than other circuits. So that's why the practice sessions are so vital, and the qualifying sessions are so vital to getting the perfect setup for your bike. Sometimes you just miss it completely and you have a bad weekend. Other times you've hit the sweet spot and you can run away with races.
Yeah, and I mean, that's interesting for me is the fact that people take practice sessions for granted. That it's just you out having a jolly, when actually it's more hard work than actually the event.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely is hard work. And when you do reach a certain level, you approach practice sessions differently. And for me, from the time I arrive at the circuit, it's 100% tactical. I never want to give anything away. I don't want to show my hand to my competitors. So from the first session that I go out, I have a very, very clear plan as to what I'm going to be doing in every session from the first practice session to the last session in the day. And pacing myself, because that's what I do in those practice sessions is going to be very indicative of what's going to happen from beginning, middle, end of the race. The beginning of the race for me is vital, but not as vital as the second part of the race. From the halfway point to the end, it's all about consistency and putting the perfect laps together, and trying to keep the maximum pace all the way to the end, to the flag.
And you know in advance how many laps there are, and you can strategize accordingly.
Yeah, we do know how many laps there are in advance. Like once again, strategy is vital. We've got to. It's not just me strategizing out on track. It's the team strategizing in pit lane, trying to figure out what the perfect amount of fuel is. Because the weight of the bike changes from the beginning of the race. You start with a full tank, your brake markers change. The agility of the bike changes. So it's a team effort. Everybody, when most people look at motor racing and they say, yeah, it's an individual sport. It's not an individual sport at all. We've got a team of 6 to 8 people standing on pit lane, making sure that everything is running perfectly.
But it's the same as any other code of sport. The coach is never. If you look at the World Cup, the coach is the oak that you see there. But there's so many other people behind him. There's a whole technical team that need to be part of this whole plan and strategy team to make the event work.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you say, you look at the World Cup, you look at rugby, you look at any other code of sport. You can never look at something through one pair of eyes. Your eyes can only follow. Your eyes are only looking at certain aspects. The team effort comes in where certain people have certain skills. So the coach overall has an idea of what he wants to see happen and how he wants things to play out. But he's got advisors that are looking at things from a completely different perspective. So, and exactly the same thing with the racing. You look at Formula One. Vettel's team. He's got his guys that are looking out for his best interests. Lewis Hamilton's team has got his guys looking out for his best interests, whether they're teammates or not. They're analyzing things very, very differently. So it's such a mind game, like every sport.
Absolutely. So what would be your pit crew? Give us an idea of the magnitude of people that's in your corner on a race day or on a practice day.
Well, aside from me, I've got my head race engineer, Eddie Henry. He's actually just come over. He's helping me this season. He was involved with the BMW World Superbike team for the last few years. He was in the development stages with that, and he's actually flown over. He's come back to South Africa. He's my chief technician at the moment. So he looks after everything from the engine, strategizing. You know, he's my go-to guy. I speak to him first, and then he delegates to everybody else. I've got one guy who's in charge of tires. We've got another guy who's in charge of the chassis and suspension. So whatever feedback I give to a guy like Eddie, we break that down, and we accumulate all the data pretty much at the end of every session. We break all that data down, and we balance everything out. The tires, we know exactly how many laps we've done on a set of tires. My feedback lets them know exactly where we are at certain points from the time we're getting on the brakes to the time we let go of the brakes to the time we get on the gas, and different lean angles. You know, those things get fed in, and we can actually fine tune every last aspect, whether we want electronic engine braking or not, whether we want traction control or not. Those kinds of things. We've got another guy who looks after the suspension. So the suspension guy and the tire guy will definitely be speaking to each other, and you know, we know exactly where we are. And Eddie will oversee everything. And once he's downloaded all the data from the motorcycle, we can actually see what my feedback is and compare the graphs of everything. It is extremely technical. When you look for anybody looking at the data sheet, it's a whole lot of lines and ones and twos and numbers. That's why it's important for kids to stay in school, because you got the amount of numbers you got to look at. It's not as glamorous as you think it is. It's a very technical, once again, technical sport. You have to have a certain amount of intelligence in this game.
Yeah, because it's not just about the feel on the bike; it's about the feel off the bike.
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
you need to be, like you say, to interpret all the data that you get.
Absolutely. I mean, the natural talent comes in at a certain point, but you know, you have to outthink your opponent. And if you can't process information fast enough, you're going to be you're going to be caught on the back foot. And the biggest thing is outsmarting your opponent. And as you saw in the video, you're sussing guys out. Everybody's going in the same direction, but you need to know how to place yourself on the track, where and when to make your move.
Let's have a look at this clip and see what Lance is talking about how to suss out your opponent. See you now.
Just got off the line from a previous race of mine from Port Elizabeth a few years ago. My teammates Brent Herring and Clinton Seller are in this race with me. As you can see, two riders have just pulled away off into the distance. We've caught up to them into turn one. Clinton Seller sliding up the inside, me around the outside. Circuit conditions are pretty damp, so from the get-go we're testing out the grip levels, just trying to see, you know, how hard we can push it. Through the sweep here, this is quite a risky sweep. Goes off camber here into a very tight hairpin second gear, very slow into here. Got to get on the gas nice and early, heading down into the dip towards Chevy Sweep. This is really one of my favorite tracks in South Africa. I've had quite a few wins and lap records around this circuit. As you can see, Clinton opting to run it out a little bit wide going into the last turn. But from my onboard shot, you can quite clearly see my mid-corner speed is much better. This is now heading down the main straight into turn one. We've got a decent idea of what the grip level's like. Now it's all about me sizing Clinton up, seeing where he's weak, where he's strong. I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to figure something out soon enough to put a pass in him, just catch him by surprise and run away with the race. Clinton's a very strong competitor, very strong on under braking, but this is one circuit where you've got to be so inch perfect, you know, placing the bike in the right place wherever you need. See, as you can see, I'm having a look up the inside because I know that I'm a little bit stronger under braking. My grip and setup is probably slightly better than his is. As we come through the dip into the sweep, you can see my mid-corner speed, as I mentioned before, is way, way better and good enough to put the pass in him. And that's all she wrote.
Welcome back, Lance. That was something else. I used to ride a Blackbird, and I've never done anything like that. Never got my knee that low down. I don't know how you do it, but when we come back, we'll find out how Lance manages to get his lean angles that low. See you now.
Evox Advanced Nutrition are the protein specialists. Get down to Discam now and get the Evox Synergy 2.2 kilogram whey protein for only $459.95. You save 110 Rand. Get the Evox 3D T2 for only $179.95 or the Evox Creatine HCl, now only $209.95. Available at a Discam near you while stocks last. Evox Advanced Nutrition is the official sports nutrition supplier to Western Province Rugby and the DHL Stormers. Get so much more for so much less at Tata Westerberg, like the Tata Indigo Vista Ego, from only $999 per month and 72 months to pay. This includes a service, a roadside assistance plan, license, registration, and number plates. Only at Tata Westerberg Brackenfell. SMS the words Vista Ego to 32010 and one of our service consultants will be in touch. Terms and conditions apply.
Tata is a good buy for sure.
Welcome back. We're chatting to Lance Isaacs, the man, the legend, the motorbike king, as some people call him. Lance, tell us a bit about these lean angles. How do you manage to get the bike so low?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of some of it's stupidity, but no, not at all. You know, the bikes nowadays are the designs and the way the bikes are built now are, you know, we can see incredible lean angles, up to 65 degree
Sure.
lean angles. You know, you see some guys like Mark Marquez in the MotoGP. Those guys are scraping their elbows and their butt cheeks on the floor. The tires that we use are very different to the tires that they use. Ours is pretty much anybody can go out and buy those tires from a motorcycle store. Yeah, you know, for us to get in order for us to get around the corners at the speeds that we do, we have to have those kinds of lean angles. The bikes are sliding around all the time. We maximizing the grip levels, trying to feed on the power as early as possible. Sometimes we get it wrong. We run out of talent. So,
Yeah, as they call it.
Yeah, as
but
they call it.
But tell me, do you actually look at the speedo? I mean, at what speeds are you cornering?
oh hell no, I don't want to be looking at the speedo.
Does the
Definitely.
speedo work? First question.
Yeah, it does work, but the last thing I want to be doing is looking down at the speedo
Yeah.
because there's a lot more important things to be watching out for.
Yeah.
You know, I'm watching where the next guy's going, plotting my move. You know, you've got to be so inch perfect when you're riding around the racetrack. You've got to connect the dots, and if you miss one dot, it's an opportunity for you for your opponent to slide on by.
Yeah, but I mean, generally going around a corner, you're doing it in third, 150k an hour. Just so viewers can get an idea of what kind of speed you're doing around
Yeah,
a
well,
bend.
you know, depending on the racetrack, as we've seen in the insert, Port Elizabeth is not a very fast or long racetrack. Down the main straight on the thousands, we'll be doing possibly, because it's such a short straight, we'll be doing maximum speed probably about 285 k's, 290 k's an hour. The straight definitely isn't long enough. Into turn one, which is a third gear turn, as you see in the insert, three gears back into turn one. Third gear corner, obviously sliding through there. You are on the brakes so late into the turn. That turn we're probably doing 130, 120 k's an hour. Into the next turn, which is another very, very tight, twisty turn, the S's. That's probably about 60, 80 k's an hour because we're slowing down quite a bit there. The next turn after that is a very, very fast left-hand sweep. Through there, you're doing 160, 170 k's an hour. Flicking it over to the right-hand side, probably just as fast, down into second gear for a 60 an hour corner.
But I mean, like you said earlier, it's about finding that right sweet spot where you can flick and
Yeah.
you can get the lean angles and know that putting it into second is going to give you enough
Yeah.
give to get you the acceleration out of the corner.
Absolutely. We you know, for us, it's as you can see, it's absolutely physical, and it's being one with the bike and and yourself, maneuvering your body weight from side to side, putting the bike in the right position, in the right gear. There's so much to think about. It's not just a physical sport; it's a mental sport as well.
Talking about the physical aspect, what else do you do other than motorbike riding? I mean, how else do you stay in trim? You heard about Schumacher going to gym, and unfortunately he had that little crash.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a general sense, what do people like yourselves do other than just to sustain your physical ability?
Well, you know, my typical week is a lot of gym training. I try to ride an off-road bike as often as I can.
Sorry,
just to
bicycle or motorbike?
motorbike, off-road motorcycle.
Okay.
You know, just to keep my reflexes nice and sharp. The riding an off-road bike, like I said, you know, learning to slide the bike keeps the core nice and strong as well. Do a bit of yoga. You know, the gym training it's good for some of the strength training, but there isn't really any kind of gym training that you can do to simulate riding a bike. So the fitness level where that kind of fitness comes in is pretty much riding an off-road bike and actually going down to the racetrack and riding your actual superbike, doing test sessions.
But you wouldn't consider riding, for argument's sake, a mountain bike?
Yeah, look, I cycle as well.
Okay.
I've done the August a few times with Mr. Morgan Newman. His idea of the August is very different compared to mine. I'm a little bit more competitive when it comes to two wheels. He goes out there to enjoy it.
Enjoy
I
the
want to
scenery.
finish as quickly as
Yeah.
possible. But yeah, it's I do some road riding, mountain bike riding a mountain bike. Not really. It is a really decent way to train. But you know, with when you're riding a mountain bike, you just have to go. You've got to put your bike in the car, drive out somewhere to go and ride your mountain bike. Whereas my road bike, put my kits on at my front door and out I go.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to think because you're riding off-road motorbike.
Yeah.
And combining a bit of fitness and doing a mountain bike ride, for argument's sake.
Yeah, look. I mean, I definitely love to cross train, running, everything. You know, I like to keep my fitness regime very diverse. I don't want my body to get too used to one thing in particular. So you know, I keep it interesting.
And what was it like training overseas and racing overseas? I mean, here at home you can do anything and everything. On the road, when you were traveling internationally, what was it like, training-wise? And
My international stint was definitely one of the highlights of my career. From living in Italy, and you know, training with some of the best guys in the world, some of the best motorcycle riders in the world, meeting some of my heroes. You know, I learned I absolutely learned so much from those guys, and it's actually put me in good stead to date. The traveling out there was extremely hectic. We had a lot more races, so the training in between wasn't as frequent as I can do. The in between training right now, but we had more racing, so we kept our eye in with that pretty much.
I mean, how often did you race? Every weekend?
We had some crazy stints. I was actually explaining to somebody a couple of days ago. We'd do some stints I'd leave Cape Town, fly to Italy, spend pretty much 3-4 days in Italy, get on a plane, fly to Bangkok to Australia, Japan back to Europe, all in the space of a month. So the traveling would definitely get you, and you've got to stay fit in between. But we are riding, so it's taxing on the body, traveling wise, and in the sport wise.
How many passports did you run at one time, my friend? Because
I'd-
that's a
I'd go through at least 2 passports a year.
yeah, I can imagine. Because you fly in stamp, fly
Yeah.
out stamp.
Absolutely. I mean, we traveled all over the world: America, South America, Australia, Japan, all over Europe, back to South Africa, and it's passport control. The guys at passport control in certain countries knew my face very well.
For the right reasons, I
for, the,
hope.
for the right reasons, absolutely.
But Lance, what was it like racing on our domestic circuit than our national circuit versus the national competition, let's say in Italy, where you spent a fair amount of time?
Look, our national series in South Africa is absolutely right up there. We are extremely competitive, especially recently we've seen 2 of our South African competitors finish on the podium on a world stage. 2 weeks ago we had another Cape Town boy, David McFadden, finished 3rd, I think it was, in the World Superstock Championship that runs with the World Superbike Series. It's the feeder class into the main World Superbike Championship. He got his first podium ever, and just this past weekend, South Africa Joburg youngster Brad Binder got onto the podium for the first time. Was South African, last South African to actually climb on a Grand Prix podium was in 1986. Sorry, Mr. Rodemeyer, and Brad Binder to date was the first South African since then to climb on a Moto3 Grand Prix podium, and we're looking for many more podiums from him. And these are youngsters. These are guys that Brad Binder I haven't raced with. He's pretty young. David McFadden, I've raced against him. So you can see guys I've beat going over there. I've done it. I've been over there. I've raced in America. I won an American championship. So our level of competition is absolutely right up there. We have produced world champions in the past, and I think we can continue to produce world champions.
Absolutely, and particularly with the academies that are run here at Killarney and at Kailami.
Yeah.
Brad is an example that's come through an academy.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, his parents pretty much put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into his sport in the beginning, and he was fortunate enough to go to the Red Bull Rookie Cup to compete in that, and he was fed straight into the Grand Prix scene. I don't believe that there's enough going on with regards to riding academies in South Africa. The sport definitely needs a lot more recognition. I was very fortunate when I got my break, was in the right place at the right time, and got a deal signed. It's a continuous fight. We definitely need to see the government actually putting some money into motorsport, because we have had more world champions in the last 10-15 years than probably any other coda sport, but nobody knows it. No one's recognized them, and everyone's out there going on their own steam. And you look at places like Italy and Spain. They actually endorse their youngsters and feed them into. They've actually got an endorsement, so they help the youngsters get to that world level. And once they've signed their big contracts, they actually start paying the money back to the federation in order for new youngsters to actually feed. Because when they make it in the world stage, they're earning 6-figure salaries. So when talk about giving back to the sport. The sport's given so much to you. You got to give back to the sport, and it'll be great to see our government kind of adopt such a feeder for our youngsters. We've got to look at diversifying. We're such a diverse culture. We need to look at other codes of sport where our youngsters can thrive.
Absolutely, and just the last thing, explain to us the difference between MotoGP and Superbike, because people don't seem to quite understand what's the difference between MotoGP and Superbike.
MotoGP is pretty much like Formula One. Everything is prototype, from the frame to the wheels to the brakes. Everything on that motorcycle is prototype. no one, there's not any amount of money that you or I can buy, that can pay to buy anything that is on a MotoGP bike. Where World Superbike is very much production based. Everything that gets developed on the MotoGP bike eventually gets mass produced. So you and I can pretty much go and buy anything that the likes of Marco Melandri or Tom Sykes or Jonathan Ray are riding on their superbike. And the bike that I'm riding right now is a superbike as well. So my bike on that world stage could pretty much do exactly what they're doing. MotoGP, very, very different kettle of fish. It's eventually 3-4 years down the line filters down into the superbike category. But you see, the bikes are getting faster and faster. The electronics are getting better and better, and it's just making the electronics that the MotoGP guys are testing will eventually filter down to superbikes and back onto the road for the guy who's riding on the street every day. You see, a lot of the street bikes you buy now have got electronics on them, tried and tested in MotoGP and World Superbikes.
And that's where it's at, is the next level. Because I mean, you and I can ride a bike and play all we want, but if we don't have the technology to help us for the times when we do run out of talent,
Absolutely.
when some opens his door or does something silly.
Absolutely. ABS braking. You know, we're developing the ABS braking to an extent that you can pretty much race with ABS braking
Sure.
nowadays. So it's pretty much fail safe. So once again, filters down to the man on the street. He can have that sporty riding ability, but be as safe as houses on the road as well.
Lance, we're going to come back to you for some closing comments. Let's have a look at the notice board. Let's see what's coming up in the next week or so, and we'll say goodbye to Lance after the notice board. Let's have a look and see. Coming up in this coming week, the 13th to 19th of July, we've got the Berg River Canoe Marathon happening. And I'm sure the competitors are grateful for the amount of rain that's just fallen to help them with that. We've got the swimming Western Province Aquatics Senior Champs happening at the Strand swimming pool. We've got varsity football, which is, as we said before, getting almost as big as varsity rugby cup. We've got yachting happening in Hout Bay. We've got the bodybuilding championships happening on the 9th of August, Women's Day, at the Belleville Civic. And we've got cycling, mountain bike happening coming up in August. There's lots more. Check out the Facebook page. If you have more information, send it to media@Sports Council, and we'll definitely upload it and share it. Lance, closing comments? What's next for Lance?
Well, I've just been named brand ambassador for BMW BMW Motorrad South Africa, and you know, we've got some exciting times ahead. BMW is definitely opening their hearts and their arms to new things. We're going to have some exciting events coming up. My sponsors, Black Swan Energy and Shock Doctor SA. We're definitely looking forward to finishing off our season on a high. We're a very new team this year, and we've got some big plans in the pipeline. Next year, it's going to be an even bigger and better year for us. We're looking forward to winning the championship this year. We're going to give it our all. I was leading the International Motorrad Cup this year. We want to win that, especially for South Africa. It's an international cup, so some big prize money up there. So I'm looking forward to going on holiday at the end of the season.
Lovely. How do people follow you? Facebook, Twitter?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Lancelot38. My website, lancelot38.com. I've got a Facebook fan page, Lance Isaacs. Lance also /Lancelot38. Lots of upcoming news, doing lots of giveaways from quite a few of my sponsors on there. So give us a follow, and we'll keep you up to date with what's going on.
Perfect. Lance, thanks for your time. Thanks for making time to come and chat to us about your life and how motor racing has improved your life in many ways, I'm sure.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope I've inspired some new youngsters to get out there and come down to Killarney, have a look. You may catch me down there in pit lane. Don't be shy, come and speak to me.
Guys, that's Lance. He's given you an open invitation. Follow him on Facebook, follow him on Twitter. Come see him in the pits. Be like Lance. Have an awesome weekend. Race hard, train hard, give your best. See you next week Friday, 9 p.m. Ciao, ciao.